sparkled gold across the ripples of a gentle sea. A mile from shore, a fishing boat chummed water, and the word for breakfast flock flashed through the air, till a crowd of 1,000 seagulls came to dodge and fight for bits of food. It was another busy day beginning. But way off alone, out by himself beyond boat and shore, Jonathan Livingston Seagull was practicing. 100 feet in the sky, he lowered his webbed feet, lifted his beak, and strained to hold a painful, hard, twisting curve through his wings.
The curve means that I would fly slowly. And now I slow, until the wind is a whisper in my face, until the ocean stands still beneath me.
He narrowed his eyes in fierce concentration, held his breath.
Just one single more inch of curve.
Then his feathers ruffled, he stalled, and fell.
Seagulls, as you know, never falter, never stall. To stall in the air is for them disgrace, and it is dishonor. But Jonathan Livingston Seagull, unashamed, stretching his wings again in the trampling hard curve, slowly and stalling once more was no ordinary bait.
Most girls don't bother to learn more than the simplest facts of life, how to get from shore to food and back again. For most girls, it is not flying that matters, but eating. For this girl, though, it was not eating that mattered, but flight. More than anything else, Jonathan Livingston Seagull loved to fly.
This kind of thinking, I found, is not the way to make oneself popular with other birds. Even my parents are dismayed with me, as I spent whole days alone, making hundreds of no-little flights, experimenting.
He didn't know why, for instance, but when he flew at altitudes less than half his wingspan above the water, he could stay in the air longer with less effort. His flight ended not with the usual feet down splash into the sea, but with a long flat wake as he touched the surface with his feet tightly streamlined against his body. When he began sliding into feet-up landing on the beach, then pacing the length of his slide into the sand, his parents were very much dismayed indeed.
Why, John? Why? Why is it so hard to be like the rest of the flock? Why can't you get over right to the pinnacle of the albatross? Why don't you eat, John? You're bone and feathers.
I don't mind being bone and feathers, Mom. I just want to know what I can do in there and what I can't. That's all. I just want to know.
See here, Jonathan. Winter isn't far away. Birds will be few and the surface fish will be swimming low. If you must study, then study food and how to get it. This flying business is all very well, but you can't eat a glide, you know. That the reason to fly is to eat.
For the next few days, I tried to behave like the other girls. I really tried. Screeching and fighting around with piers and fishing boats, diving on scraps of fish and bread. I couldn't make it work. It's all so pointless. I could be spending all this time learning how to fly. There is so much to learn.
It wasn't long before Jonathan Gar was off by himself again, far at sea, hungry, happy, learning.
The subject is speak, and in a week's practice, I knew more about speaking the fastest guy alive. From 1,000 feet, flapping my wings as hard as I could, I pushed over into a vertical dive towards the west, and learned my seagulls do not make blazing steep power dives. In just 6 seconds, I was moving at 70 miles per hour. The speed at which one's wing goes unstable on the upstroke.
Time after time it happened. Careful as he was, working at the very peak of his ability, he lost control at high speed.
Climb 2,000 feet, full power, straight ahead. Then push over first, flapping, to a vertical dive.
Every time his left wing stalled on an upstroke, he drove violently left, stalled his right wing, recovering, and fleet like triangle, while turning straight to the right. He couldn't be careful enough on that upstroke. 10 times he tried. Every time as he passed through 70 miles per hour, he burst into a chilling mass of feathers, out of control, crashing down into the water.
The key must be to hold the wings still at high speed, to flap up to 50, and then hold the wings still.
From 2,000 feet, he tried again, rolling into his dive, beak straight out, wings full out, and stable from the moment he passed 50 miles per hour.
It took tremendous strength, but it worked. In just 10 seconds, I blew through 90 miles per hour. I'd set a world speed record for seagulls.
But victory was short-lived. The instant he began his pull-out, or the instant he changed the angle of his wings, he snapped into that same terrible disaster. And at 90 miles per hour, it hit him like dynamite. Jonathan Livingston's seagull exploded in mid-air and smashed down into a big hard sea.
When he came to, it was well after dark, and he floated in moonlight on the surface of the ocean. His wings were ragged bars of lead, but the weight of failure was even heavier on his back. He wished feebly that the weight could be just enough to drag him gently down to the bottom and end it all. As he sank low in the water, a strange hollow voice sounded within it.
This way, no way around it. I'm a seagull. I'm limited by my nature. If I were made to know so much about flying, I'd have charts for brains. If I were made to fly at speed, I'd have falcon short wings and live on mice instead of fish. My father's right. I must forget this universe. I must fly home to the flock and be content as I am. As a poor, limited seagull. Place for seagull at night on shore. And from this moment forth, I will be a normal girl. Make everyone happy.
He pushed wearily away from the dark water and flew towards the land, grateful for what he had learned about work-saving low-altitude flying.
No. I'm done with the way I am. I'm done with the way I was. I'm done with everything I learned. I'm a seagull. Every other seagull. I will fly on.
So he climbed and flew to 100 feet and flapped his wings harder, pressing for shore. He felt better for his decision to be just another one of the flock. There would be no ties now to the force that had driven him to learn.
There would be no more challenge, no more failure. And it's pretty. Just to stop thinking and fly through the dark towards the lights on the beach.
Dark! Seagulls never fly in the dark!
It's pretty. The moon and lights twinkling in the water. Throwing out the beacon trails throughout the night. And also peaceful and slow.
Get down! Seagulls never fly in the dark!
We have the eyes of an owl.
We have charts for brains!
We have a falcon's short wings.
Short wings. The falcon's short wings. That's the answer. What a fool I've been. All I need is to fly in the tips of my wings alone. All I need is a tiny little wing. Short wings.
Seagulls never fly in the dark!
He climbed 2,000 feet above the Red Sea, and without a moment for thought of failure and death, he brought his forewings tightly into his body, left only the narrowest of daggers of his wingtips extended into the wind, and fell into a vertical dive.
The wind was a monster over his head, 70 miles per hour, 90, 120 and fast and still. The wind straight out 140 miles per hour wasn't nearly as hard as it had been before at 70. And with the faintest twist of his wingtips, he eased out of the dive and shot above the waves, a grey cannonball under the moon. He closed his eyes, to slit against the wind, and rejoiced.
150 miles per hour. And under control. But I am 5,000 feet sick too.
His brows were murky balls of cotton, swept by an icy wind, yet he felt guiltless, breaking the promises he had made himself. Such promises are only for the girls that accept the ordinary. One who has touched excellence in his learning has no need for that kind of promise.
By sunup, Jonathan Gull was practicing again. From 5,000 feet, the fishing boats were specks in the flat blue water. Breakfast flock was a faint cloud of dust motes, circling.
He was alive, trembling ever so slightly with delight, proud that his fear was under control. Then without ceremony, he hacked in his forewings, extended his short-angled wingtips, and plunged directly towards the sea. By the time he passed 4,000 feet, he had reached terminal velocity. The wind was a solid beating wall of sun against which he could move no faster. He was flying now straight down at 214 miles per hour. He swallowed, knowing that if his wings unfolded at that speed, he'd be blown into a million tiny shreds of seagull. But the speed was power, and the speed was joy, and the speed was pure beauty. He began his pull-out at 1,000 feet, wingtips starting and blurring in their gigantic wings. The boat and the cloud of gulls tilting and growing meteor fast directly in his path.
I couldn't stop. I didn't even have to turn at that speed. Collision will be instant death.
And so he shut his eyes. It happened that morning. Then, just after sunrise, that Jonathan Livingston Seagull fired directly into the center of breakfast flock, ticking off 212 miles per hour, eyes closed, with a great roaring shriek of wind and feathers. The gull of fortune smiled upon him this once, and no one was killed.
By the time he had pulled his beak straight up into the sky, he was still scorching along at 160 miles per hour. When he had slowed to 20 and stretched his wings again at last, the boat was a calm on the sea, 4,000 feet below.
Terminal velocity. A seagull at 214 miles per hour.
Flying out to his lonely practice area, folding his wings for a dive from 8,000 feet, he set himself at once to discover how to turn.
A single winged feather found, moved a fraction of an inch. Gives a smooth, sweeping curve at tremendous speed. Before even this, however, he found that moving more than one feather that speed will spun you like a rifle ball. Jonathan had flown the first aerobatics of any seagull on earth.
He spared no time that day for talk with other girls, but flew on past sunset. He discovered the loop, the slow roll, the point roll, the inverted spin, the gull bunt, the pinwheel. When Jonathan Seagull joined the flock on the beach, it was full night. He was dizzy and terribly tired, yet in the light he flew a loop to landing with a snap roll just before touchdown.
When they hear of it, of the breakthrough, they'll be wild with joy. Instead of our drabs looking forth and back towards the fishing boat, we have a reason to learn, to discover, to be free. We can lift ourselves out of ignorance. We can distinguish ourselves as creatures of excellence and intelligence and skill. We can be free. We can learn to fly.
The years ahead hummed and glowed with promise.
Jonathan Livingston Seagull, stand to center!
The elder's words sounded in a voice of highest ceremony. Stand to center meant only great shame or great honor. Stand to center, for honor, was the way the gull's foremost leaders were marked.
Of course. The breakfast flock this morning, they saw the breakthrough. But I want no honors. I have no wish to be leader. I only want to share what I found and show those horizons out ahead for us all.
Jonathan Livingston Seagull, stand to center, for shame in the sight of your fellow gulls!
Shame? Impossible. The breakthrough this morning.
For the reckless irresponsibility, violating the dignity of the gull family.
To be centered for shame meant that he would be cast out of gull society, banished to a solitary life on the far cliffs.
One day, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, you shall learn that irresponsibility does not pay. Life is the unknown and the unknowable. Accept that we are put on this earth to eat, to stay alive as long as we possibly can.
Jonathan Seagull spent the rest of his days alone, but he flew way up beyond the far cliffs. His one sorrow was not solitude, it was that other gulls refused to believe the glory of flight that awaited them. They refused to open their eyes and see. He learned more each day. He learned that a streamlined high dive could bring him to find the rare and tasty fish that schooled 10 feet below the surface of the ocean. He no longer needed fishing boats and sail bread for survival. He learned to sleep in the air, sitting in corks at night across the offshore wind, covering 100 miles from sunset to sunrise. With the same air control, he flew through heavy sea fogs and climbed above them into dazzling clear skies, in the very times when every other gull stood on the ground, knowing nothing but mist and rain. He learned to ride the high winds far inland, to dine there on delicate insects. What he had once hoped for the flock, he now gained for himself alone. He learned to fly, and was not sorry for the price he had paid. Jonathan Seagull discovered that boredom and fear and anger are the reasons that a gull's life is so short. And with these gone from his thought, he lived a long, fine life indeed.
They came in the evening then, and found Jonathan gliding peaceful and alone through his beloved sky. The two gulls that appeared at his wings were pure as starlight, and the glow from them was gentle and friendly in the high night.
I could a taste which no other gull had ever passed. I twisted my wings and slowed to a single mile per hour without stall. Two raining birds slowed with me. Down the floors. They were looking, smiling, and covered having flat. Very well. Who are you?
We're from your flock, Jonathan. We're your brothers. We've come to take you higher, to take you home.
Home? I have none. No, I have none. I'm outcast. We are riding on the peak of the great mountain moon. Beyond a few hundred feet, I can lift this body no higher.
We have learned. My school is finished in the time. We're now to be
My life. Understanding this. They were right. I can fly high. And it is time to go home.
He gave one last long look across the sky, across that magnificent silver land where he lived so much.
I'm ready. And with that, I rose 2 minutes and birds into a perfect dark sky. struck to enter it.
As he came from Earth now above the clouds, in a close formation with the two brilliant gulls, he saw that his own body was growing as bright as theirs. True, the same young Jonathan Seagull was there that always lived behind his golden eyes, but the outer form had changed.
It feels like a seagull body, but already it flies far better. Why, with healthy effort, I'll get twice the speed. Twice my performance of my best days on Earth.
His feathers glowed brilliant white now, and his wings were smooth and perfect as sheets of polished silver. He began delightedly to learn about them, to press power into these new wings.
At 250 miles per hour, he felt that he was nearing his level flight maximum speed. At 273, he thought he was flying as fast as he could fly, and he was ever so faintly disappointed. There was a limit to how much the new body could do, and that it was much faster than his old level flight record. It was still a limit that would take great effort to crack.
In heaven there should be no limits.
Heavy landings, Jonathan.
Why so few gulls? Heaven should be flocked with gulls. Why am I so tired? Gulls in heaven are never supposed to be tired or to sleep. Where did I heard that? The memory of my life on Earth was fading away. Earth, of course, was a place where I learned much. But the details were blurred. Something about fighting for food and being outcast.
The dozen girls by the shoreline came to meet him, none saying a word.
I always felt that I was welcome, and that this was home. It had been a big day for me. The day of sunrise, I no longer remember.
He turned to land on the beach, beating his wings to stop an inch in the air, then dropping lightly to the sand. The other gulls landed too, but not one of them so much as flapped a feather. They swung into the wind, bright wings outstretched. Then, somehow they changed the curve of their feathers until they had stopped in the same instant their feet touched the ground. It was beautiful control, but now Jonathan was just too tired to try it. Standing there on the beach, still without a word spoken, he was asleep.
In the days that followed, Jonathan saw that there was as much to learn about flight in this place as there had been in the life behind him, but with a difference.
Here are girls who think as I think. For each of them, the most important thing in living is to reach out and touch perfection, and that which they love most to do, and that is to fly. They are magnificent birds, all of them, and they spend hours every day practicing, testing advanced aeronautics.
For a long time, Jonathan forgot about the world that he had come from, that place where the flock lived with his eyes tightly to the joy of flight, using its wings as wings to the end of finding and fighting for food. But now and then, just for a moment, he remembered.
He remembered it one morning when he was out with his instructor, while they rested on the beach after a session of folded wing snip rolls.
Sullivan, where is everybody? Why aren't there more of us here? Why, where I came from,
There were thousands and thousands of girls. I know. The only answer I can see, John, is that you're pretty well a 1 in a million bird. Most of us came along ever so slowly. We went from one world into another. It was almost exactly like that. Forgetting where we had come from. Not caring where we were headed. Living for the moment. Do you have any idea how many lives we went through before we realized that there's more to life than eating and fighting and powering the flock? 1,000, John. 10,000. And then another 100 again. Before we realized there's such thing as perfection. And then another 100 again. Before we realized the purpose of our life was to find the perfection, to show forth. Of course, the same will hold for us now. We choose our next world to work and learn nothing, and our next world to stay. The same limitations and networks to overcome. Like you, John. You learned so much about time, but you didn't have to go through 1,000 lives to reach this one.
In a moment, they were airborne again, practicing. The formation point rolls were difficult, for through the inverted half, Jonathan had to think upside down, reversing the curve of his wing, and reversing it exactly in harmony
with his instructors.
Let's try it again. Let's try it again.
One evening, the girls that were not night flying stood together on the sand, thinking. Jonathan took all his courage in one hand and walked to the elder girl who, it was said, was soon to be moving beyond this world.
Chan,
Yes, my son.
Chan, this world isn't heaven at all, is it?
You're lonely again, Jonathan, see that?
Now, what happens from here? Where do we go? Is there no such place as heaven?
No, John, there is no such place. Heaven is not a place, and it is not a time. Heaven is being perfect. You're a fast flyer, aren't you, Jonathan?
I enjoy speed.
You will begin to touch heaven in the moment that you touch perfect speed. That isn't flying 1,000 miles an hour, or 1,000,000, or flying at the speed of light, because any number is a limit. Perfect speed, John, is being It's kind of fun.
How do you do that? What does it feel like? How far will you go?
You can go to any place and any time that you wish to go. I've gone to everywhere and everywhere that I can think of. It's strange. The girls who scorn perfection for the sake of travel and go nowhere, slowly. But those who would travel aside for the sake of perfection, go anywhere, instantly. Remember, John, heaven isn't a place or a time, because time and place are so very meaningless. Heaven,
Can you teach me to fly like that?
of course, if you wish to learn.
I wish. When can we start?
We can start now if you like.
I want to learn to fly like that. Tell me what to do.
To fly as fast as thought to anywhere that is, you must begin by knowing that you have already arrived. The trick is for you to stop seeing yourself as trapped inside a limited body with a 42-inch wingspan and performance that can be plotted on a chart. The trick is for you to know that your true nature lives, as perfect as an unwritten number anywhere across space and time.
Jonathan kept at it fiercely day after day, from before sunrise till past midnight, and for all his effort he moved not a featherweight from his spot. Then one day Jonathan, standing on the shore, closing his eyes, concentrating, all in a flash knew what Jane had been telling him.
Why? It's true. I am a perfect, unlimited seagull.
Good.
Jonathan opened his eyes. He stood alone with the elder on a totally different shore. Trees down on the water's edge, twin yellow suns turning overhead.
At last you got the idea that your control needs a little work.
Where are we?
We're on some planets, obviously, with a green sky and a double star for a sun.
It works.
Of course it works, John. It always works if you know what you're doing. Now, about your control.
By the time they returned, it was dark. The other girls looked at Jonathan with an awe in their golden eyes, for they had seen him disappear from where he had been rooted for so long. He stood there, congratulations, for less than a minute.
I'm the newcomer here. I'm just beginning.
I don't know about that, John.
You have less way of learning than any girl I've seen in 1,000 years.
We could start working with time if you wish, till you can fly the past and the future. And then you will be ready to begin the most difficult, the most powerful, the most fun of all. Ready to fly up and to know the meaning of kindness and of love.
A month went by, or something that felt about like a month, and Jonathan learned at a tremendous rate. He always had learned quickly from ordinary experience, and now, the special student, the elder himself, he took in new ideas like a streamlined feather computer. But then the day came, the chain vanished. He had been talking quietly with them all, exhorting.
Never stop your learning and your practicing and your striving to understand more of the perfect, invisible principle of life.
Then as he spoke, his feathers went brighter and brighter, and at last turned so brilliant that no gull could look upon him.
Jonathan, keep working on love.
When they could see again, Jane was gone.
As the days went past, Jonathan found himself thinking time and again of the earth from which he had come. If he had known there just a tenth, just the hundredth of what he knew here, how much more life would have meant. He stood on the sand and fell to wondering if there was a girl back there who might be struggling to break out of his limits, to see the meaning of life beyond the way of travel, to get a breadcrumb from a rowboat.
Perhaps there might even have been one made outcast for speaking his truth in the face of the flock.
And the more Jonathan practiced his kindness lessons, and the more he worked to know the nature of love, the more he wanted to go back to earth. For in spite of his lonely past, Jonathan Seagull was born to be an instructor, and his own way of demonstrating love was to give something of the truth that he had seen to a girl who asked only a chance to see truth for himself.
John, you were outcast once. Why do you think the girls in your old time would listen to you now? You know the proverb, and it's true. The girl sees farthest, who flies highest. Those girls where you come from are 1,000 miles from heaven. And you say you want to show them heaven from where they stand? They can't even see their own wingtips. John, stay here. Help the new girls. The ones that are high enough to see what you have to tell them. What if Chang had gone back to his old world? Where would he have been today?
The last point is the telling one. Sullivan is right. The girl sees farthest and flies highest.
Jonathan stayed and worked with the new birds coming in, who were all very bright and quick with their lessons. But the old feeling came back, and he couldn't help but think that there might be one or two girls back on Earth who would be able to learn too.
What if Chang had come to me the day I was made outcast? How much more I would have known. Sully, I must go back. Your students are doing well. They can help you bring the newcomers along.
I think I'll miss you, John.
Sully, for shame. Don't be foolish. What are we trying to practice every day? Our friendship depends on things like space and time. Right, when we finally overcome space and time, we have destroyed our own brotherhood. But overcome space, and all we have is here. And overcome time, and all we have is now. And don't you think in between here and now, we might see each other once or twice?
You crazy bird. Anybody can show someone on the ground. See 1,000 miles. It'll be Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Goodbye, John, my friend.
Goodbye, son. We'll meet again.
And with that, Jonathan held in thought an image of the great garden on the shore of another time, and he knew with practiced ease that he was not bone and feather, but a perfect idea of freedom and flight, limited by nothing at all. Was still quite young, but already he knew that no bird had ever been so harshly treated by any flock with so much injustice.
I don't care what they think. There's so much more to fly and they're just flapping around from place to place. A mosquito does that. One little barrel roll around the albatross just for fun. And I'm outcast. Are they blind? Can't they see? Can't they think of the glory of me when we really learn to fly? I don't care what they say. I'll show them what flying is. I'll be pure outlaw if that's the way they want it. And I'll make them sorry. Don't be harsh on them, Fletch. By casting you out, the other girls have only hurt themselves. One day they will know this. One day they will see what you see. Forgive them and help them understand. What's going on? and one day go back to them and help them to know. I do. Then wait. Let's begin with level flight.
Jonathan circled slowly over the pot cliffs, watching.
This rough young fledgling seagull is very nearly a perfect flight student. He is strong and light and quick in the air. But far and away more important, he has a blazing drive to learn to fly. Here comes this minute, a blurred grey shape roaring out the dive, flashing 150 miles per hour past me. He pulls abruptly into another try, 16-point vertical slow roll, calling the points out loud. 8, 9, 10. See, Jonathan, I'm running out of airspeed. 11. I want good, sharp stops like yours. 12. Blasted. I just can't make 13. These last 3 points. 14. You're wasting your time with me, Jonathan. You're too dumb. You're too stupid. Try and I try, but I'll never get it right. You'll certainly never get it right as long as you make that pull-up so hard. Fletcher, you lost 40 miles an hour in the entry. You have to be smooth. Now, come on, let's try together. Information. And pay attention to that pull-up. It's a smooth, easy entry.
By the end of 3 months, Jonathan had 6 other students, outcasts all. Yet curious about this strange new idea of flight for the joy of flying.
Still, it was easier for them to practice high performance than it was to understand the reason behind it.
Each of us is in truth an idea of the great goal, an unlimited idea of freedom. Precision flying is only taking a step towards expressing our real nature. Everything that stands against that freedom we have to put aside. That's why all this high-speed practice and low-speed and aeronautics. My students would be asleep, exhausted from the day's practice. They liked the flying because it was fast and exciting, and fed our hunger for learning which grew with every lesson. But not one of them, not even Fletcher and Bell, have come to understand that the flight of ideas are just as real as the flight of wind and feather. Your whole body, from winter to winter, is nothing more than the boat itself, in the form you can see. Break the chains of your thought, and you'll break the chains of your body too.
But no matter how he said it, it sounded like pleasant fiction, and they didn't go to sleep. It was only a month later that Jonathan said,
The time has come to return to the flock. We're not ready. We're not welcome. We're outcast. We can't force ourselves to go when we're not welcome. We are free to go where we wish and to be what we are.
There was great anguish among his students, for it is the law of the flock that an outcast never returns, and the law had not been broken once in 10,000 years. The law said stay, Jonathan said go, and by now he was a mile across the water. If they waited much longer, he would reach a hostile flock alone.
Well, we don't have to obey the law if we're not part of the flock, do we? Besides, if there's a fight, we're out there than we are here.
And so they flew from west that morning, 8 of them in a double diamond formation, wingtips almost overlapping. They came across the flock's council beach at 135 miles per hour, Jonathan in the lead, Fletcher smoothly at his right wing, Henry Calvin struggling gayly at his left. Then the whole formation rolled slowly to the right, as one bird. Level to inverted to level, the wind whipping over them all. The squawks and groggles of everyday life in the flock were cut off, as though the formation were a giant knife, and 8,000 gull eyes watched without a single blink. One by one, each of the 8 birds pulled sharply out into a fruit and flew all the way around to a dead slow stand-up landing on the sand. Then, as though this sort of thing happened every day, Jonathan Seagull began his critique of the flight.
To begin with, you were all a bit late on the joiner.
Say you're
Call the flock!
Grey feathered backs were turned upon Jonathan from that moment onward, but he did not appear to notice. He held his practice sessions directly over the council beach, and for the first time began pressing his students to the limits of their ability.
Martin Gull, you say you know low speed flying. You know nothing till you've proven it. Fly.
So quiet little Martin William Siegel settled to the court under his instructor's fire, surprised himself, and became a lizard of low speed. In the lightest breeze, he could curve his feathers to lift himself without a single flap of wind from sand to cloud and down again.
Likewise, Charles Roland Gull flew the great mountain wind to 24,000 feet. He came from the cold thin air, amazed and happy, determined to go still higher tomorrow. Fletcher Siegel, who loved aerobatics like no one else, conquered his 16-point vertical slow roll, and the next day topped it off with a triple cartwheel. His feathers flashing white sunlight to a beach from which more than one coat of eye watched. Every hour, Duncan was there at the side of each of his students, demonstrating, suggesting, pressuring, guiding. He flew with them through the night and cloud and storm for the sport of it, while the flock huddled miserably on the ground.
When the playing was done, the students relaxed on the sand, and in time they listened more closely to Jonathan. He had some crazy ideas that they couldn't understand, but then he had some good ones that they could. Gradually, in the night, another circle formed around the circle of students, a circle of curious gulls listening into the dark for hours on end, not wishing to see or be seen of one another, fading away before daybreak.
It was a month after the return that the first gull of the flock crossed the line and asked to learn how to fly. In his asking, Terence Lowell Gull became a condemned bird, labelled outcast, and the eighth of Jonathan's students. The next night from the flock came Kirk Maynard Gull, warbling across the sand, dragging his left wing to collapse at Jonathan's feet.
Help me. I want to fly more than anything else in the world.
Well, come along then. Climb away from the ground and we'll begin.
But you don't understand. My wing, I can't move my wing.
Maynard Gull, you have the freedom to be yourself, here and now. It is the law of the great gull. It is the law that is.
You say that I can fly.
I say you are free.
As simply and as quickly as that, I may not spread my wings effortlessly and lift it into the dark night air. The flock was roused from sleep by my cry, as loud as I could scream it from 500 feet up. I can fly. Listen! I can fly!
By sunrise, there were nearly 1,000 birds standing outside the circle of students, looking curiously at me. They didn't care whether they were seen or not, and they listened, trying to understand Jonathan Siegel. He spoke of a very simple thing.
It is right for a gull to fly. Freedom is the very nature of our being. Everything that stands against that freedom, we have to put aside, be it ritual or superstition or limitation in any form.
Set aside, even if it be the law of the flock.
The only true law is the one which leads to freedom. There is no other.
But how do you expect us to fly as you fly?
You special and gifted and divine above all birds.
Look at Fletcher, Lowell, Charles Roland. Are they also special and gifted and divine? No more than you are. No more than I am. The only difference, and the very only one, is that they have come to understand what they really are and have begun to practice it.
His students, said Fletcher, shifted uneasily. They hadn't realized that this was what they were doing. The crowd grew larger every day, coming to question, to idolize, to scorn.
They're saying in the flock that you're not the son of the great gull himself. You must be 1,000 years ahead of your time.
The price of being misunderstood. They either call you devil or they call you God. What do you think, Fletch? Are we ahead of our time?
Well, this kind of flying has been around for anybody to discover it. That's got nothing to do with time. We're ahead of the fashion, maybe. Ahead of the way most gulls fly.
That's something. It's not half as bad as being ahead of our time.
It happened just a week later. Fletcher was demonstrating elements of high-speed flying to a class of new students. He had just pulled out of his dive from 7,000 feet, a long grey streak flying a few inches above the beach, when a young bird on its first flight glided directly into his path, calling for its mother. With a tenth of a second to avoid the youngster, Fletcher then snapped past the lake at something over 200 miles per hour into a cliff of solid granite.
It was for me as though the rock was a giant hard door into another world. A burst of fear and sharp and black as I hit. And then I was adrift in a strange sky. Forgetting, remembering, forgetting, afraid, and sad, and sorry. Terribly sorry.
The trick, Fletcher, is that we are trying to overcome our limitations in order. Patience. We do not tackle flying through rock until a bit later in the program.
Jonathan?
Also known as the son of a great god.
What are you doing here? The cliff? Didn't I die?
Oh, Fletch. Come on, think. If you are talking to me now, then obviously you didn't die, did you? What you did manage to do was to change your level of consciousness rather abruptly. It's your choice now. You can stay here and learn on this level, in spite of it higher than when you left, by the way. Or you can return to the flock. The elder were hoping for some kind of disaster. If they started what you advised them so well.
Well, I want to go back to the flock, of course. I've barely begun with the new group.
Very well. Remember what we said about one's body being nothing more than thought itself?
He lives!
He lives!
That's why you brought to life the son of the great son of the great God!
No! He denies it! He's a devil!
Devil!
Devil! Come to break the flock!
Why is it that the hardest thing in the world is to show a bird that he is free and that he can prove it to himself if only he spent a little time practicing it? Why should that be so hard?
What did you just do? How did we get here?
You did say you wanted to get out of the mob, didn't you?
Yes, but how did you...
Like everything else, Fletch. Practice.
By morning the flock had forgotten its insanity, but Fletcher had not.
John, do you remember what you said a long time ago about loving the flock enough to one day return to them and help them?
Yes.
I don't understand how you can love a mob of birds that just tried to kill you.
Oh, Fletch, you don't love that. You don't love all the hatred and the evil. Of course. You've got to learn and see the real doll, the good in every one of them, and help them see it in themselves. That's what I mean by love. It's kind of fun, once you get the knack of it. I remember a fierce young bird, for instance, flatulent seagull by name, just been made outcast, ready to fight the flock to death, getting a start on his own bitter hell out on the far cliffs. And here he is today, building his own heaven instead, and leading a whole flock in that direction.
Me? Leading? What do you mean, me leading? You're the instructor here. You couldn't leave.
Couldn't I? Don't you think there might be other flocks, other Fletchers, who need an instructor more than this one, which is on its way towards the light?
But me, John, I'm just a plain seagull, and you're...
The only son of the great gull, I suppose. You don't need me any longer, Fletch. You need to find yourself, that real, unlimited, flatulent seagull, You need to find him and to understand him and to practice him. He's your instructor now. Don't let them spread silly rumors about me or make me a god, okay, Fletch? I'm a seagull. I like to fly. Maybe. Jonathan! Poor Fletch. Don't believe what your eyes are telling you. All they show is limitation. Look with your understanding. Find out what you already know, and you'll see the way to fly.
After a time, Fletcher Gull dragged himself into the sky and faced a brand new group of students, eager for their first lesson.
To begin with, you've got to understand that a seagull is an unlimited idea of freedom, an image of the great God, and your whole body, from wingtip to wingtip, is nothing more than thought itself.
Come on, this doesn't sound like a roof or a loop.
Very well. Let's begin with level flight. And saying that, I understood that my friend had quite honestly been no more divine than I. No limits, Jonathan. Well then, the time's not distant when I'm going to appear on your beach, show you a thing or two about flying. And though I tried to look properly severe for my students, I suddenly saw them all as they really are. Just for a moment. And I more than liked. I loved what it was I saw. No limits, Jonathan. My race to learn has just begun.
She was the daughter of a chief.
She has her mother's spirit. She goes wherever the wind takes her.
Come down here!
And she lived a life of freedom.
No, not that way.